Hey y'all, Ramdino here, coming at you again for another Appalachian Trail community news, through hiker update, and trail information. Well, there has been a ton of stuff going on the trail. Hikers and the no-bow season's in full force. Flip-flop season is starting. It's just a matter of time, matter of months maybe, before so-bow season starts. But we're well on our way in the hiker season. Let's go ahead and get on with what's going on out there on the trail. So Blue, he has made it to Damascus, and he is heading north today and is probably already up into the Mount Rogers area, maybe through that. A lot of folks give me their reports, and it's come in, a couple days ago. And so when you do give me your reports, if you would give those to me on Friday or Saturday, that's when I'm typically putting it together and recording on Sunday. So I like to have the most current information. So if you could do that, that would be awesome. Help me out a bunch. But Blue, he is probably on through Mount Rogers. Commander, he is finishing on day 12. He's at Cold Spring Shelter, which is mile marker around 125. Said there's beautiful views from Webball Tower today, so that's awesome. Bee Liver and Moose Liver, they have made it to Luray, Virginia. They had to take some time off. Before they took some time off, it was Moose Liver had to go to the hospital, get checked out, and now this time it was Bee Liver's turn to go. She had an algae flare up, had to go get some steroids and stuff to try to take care of all that and ward off some lung inflammation, but they're doing better. They're going to be getting back out on the trail. You'll remember last time I talked about that they were using one car, and they would drop off at the north side, or they would take the car and they would drop the hiker that was on the south side. They would drop that hiker off, and then the north hiker would go drop the car off, and then they would hike towards each other and hand the keys off. Typically they slack pack, or they could do a couple days like that, but they really only hike with each other just the moment when they pass, or maybe when they're at the shelter together. But they've called that the high five. In other words, they give each other a high five as they go past each other. So never heard it called that before. I called it both ways bound, so a bobo hike. But if they like high five better, it suits me just fine. McDuck, the Okie, and JFK, they have made it past the Craig Creek, where the bridge was had been condemned. Hikers weren't supposed to be using it. It's in Virginia, right before the Audie Murphy Monument, and as of the April 24th, I believe it was, the bridge is gone. So the National Forest Service took it down, and they had warned they were going to do it, and they condemned it before then. Hikers were still going across it because they said it's still viable, but in any case, they have removed that bridge. And then when McDuck and Okie and JFK got to it, there's no bridge, and it was, after all the rain we had, totally flooded out. So no chance of wading across that. And so they had to do the road walk to get out of there, or to get around it. So that's what they did. Did that road walk. They have crossed the 700-mile mark, and they have hit Dragon's Tooth. So they say they're still having a great time. Mouse Whisperer, she has made it to Fontana today. And let me tell you, I believe last time was the first time she'd been on the channel. She is one tough lady. Very, very inspirational. You need to go check out her channel. She is hiking with both Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. I probably didn't say that right. Sorry I butchered that, but ulcerative colitis, and she had to have surgery to remove her colon, and on top of all that, she's had kidney cancer. So all this is, she put that out in a public information, so I'm not disclosing anything that she doesn't want people to know. She has to leave the trail about every 6 weeks to have 3 days worth of infusion treatment. And as a result of all of that, her colon being removed, where your colon, is where it absorbs a lot of your water, she deals with dehydration constantly. And she also has to deal with, she has to go to the cat hole, 6 to 9 times a day. So, I mean, that is just, I can't imagine trying to hike like that. She deals with dehydration, something terrible, so she has to, and for her it's a life or death situation. So she has to carry more water, which is more weight. There are sections, particularly through the southern part of Virginia, where coming in the Bland region, where there's not a lot of creeks around there. Once you get past Chestnut Ridge, there's a whole section where she's going to have to be carrying like, you know, like I would carry 2 liters, she may be carrying 6 liters or 8 liters. So you think about how much water weight that is she's going to be carrying. Um, but she is doing absolutely enjoying herself. She's moving right along. She's got just, to me, it's just such an inspiration to show others that, you know, you may have different infirmities, short of not being able to actually get out there and move your legs, or an amputee that can't get out there on the trail for whatever reason, doesn't have prosthetics. But it's such an inspiration for people to get out there, enjoy God's creation, enjoy the trail, even through hike. And then we've also got folks this year that are diabetic, type 2, that have to have their insulin. So they're finding ways around that. So it's just, there are ways to do it if you want to get out there and do that. For most of the problems that people have out there. So what an inspiration Mouse Whisperer is. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to leave a link to her YouTube channel down below. Go and check out her story. Go and check out all her videos there and subscribe to her channel. It's just awesome what she is doing out there. So Mouse Whisperer, you got my probes and you got my all. So thanks a lot for that. Silver, she has made it through the Triple Crown. She started in April 5th at Pearisburg. Sassafras Jim, he has made it to Fontana after turning back from 5 weeks, healing up a broken leg. Somebody getting back on trail after a big time injury there, and he's heading into the Smokies. Zpacks, he is back on trail, and he's hiking with YOLO, and they have made it to Waynesboro and heading into the Shanties. Fortune is hiking for the AT for osteoporosis, and so I know I butchered that one too. And he has reached Pennsylvania. Lucky Penny, who's the mom, and Prickleberry, who's the daughter, and they look like they're 2 sisters, amazing, are heading into Pennsylvania this week. Lucky Penny, she started her Nobo flip-flop somewhere just north of Damascus. So she was at Elk Park, which is actually north of Rome Mountain, I'm pretty certain, there, and or Elk Garden, rather. It's right kind of after you come down off Rome Mountain and right before you get back down onto the Virginia Creeper area down there. And then Prickleberry joined her at Apple Orchard Falls in Virginia. They saw their first rattlesnake on trail at the roller coaster section, but they look like they're having a great time out there. Heisenberg, he's made it to Damascus, and he's probably through Mount Rogers by now. He said the last shelter in Tennessee, which is Abington Gap Shelter, has a persistent bear problem there. So be careful about that. He said he saw it by word of mouth and in the logbooks, and he saw what he describes as a 300-pound plus bear a quarter-mile from the shelter at 1:30 p.m. during the middle of the day. 10 Stakes, he's a viewer, and he reported, Tent Stakes rather, he's a viewer, he's a section hiker, don't normally report on section hikers, but he did say that he saw Magic Jim, Shepherd, Upstate, Snorm, and Trouble in the Smokies, and they should be done by now, in case you know those folks. Dos Entrades, as of the 29th of April, he had made it to Roan High Knob Shelter, which is the highest shelter on the Appalachian Trail. He's been hiking with a fella type 1. I said type 2 earlier, but he's a type 1 diabetic, Sugga J, since they got to the knock. And he says so far they're injury free. They've had great weather, and they may have finally found their trail legs. So good to hear. Rock and Roll, he is ended on trail at the Mohican Outdoor Center in New Jersey, and he had to go to Cleveland do some work, and he's getting back on May 24th. Oz, he has made it through the Triple Crown. He also got hung up there at the flooding across Craig Creek and had to do that road walk detour around that. Frodo and the Ring, they are past the Mason-Dixon line and past the halfway point. So congratulations to him. He said that he had heard about a death of an older Sobo. Some reason I am really hung up this week. But anyway, he had heard of an older Sobo that had a heart attack and passed away at the Ensign Cow Shelter in Maryland. I have confirmed that from another viewer. Elsie sent me the looks like the data that came off the rescue squad or the first responders there, that indicated that a hiker had passed from cardiac arrest. No confirmation on whether that was a section hiker or a through hiker. I don't think he couldn't be a pure Sobo, because Sobo season had started, Katahdin hadn't opened up yet, so he may have been a flip-flopper. But in any case, looking at it, looks like he did pass away. So very sorry to hear about that. Don't know the name of the hiker or any of that information. Ron 78 has passed the quarter way tree. Gadget is still hiking with high speed, and they are into the Mount Rogers area. And they say they have started to get their trail legs. They're now hiking between 18 and 20 miles a day. Smoke is done with North Carolina. Here he is at the Doll Flat sign, and that is the last sign out of North Carolina. So that means he's finished with the Roan, and he is crossing over 19E in just about an hour from that particular spot. So he's in Tennessee, and probably already well on his way to Damascus by now. 3-tack has passed the mile 300 and will be out of Irwin by today. Wrong way is past 100 miles. Oh, that's awesome. First 100 miles is really can be one of the toughest. Wedge has made it through the Triple Crown. Hiram Hikes, he has made it past the 1/3 marker. Half a day continues on his 22 Sobo, and he has made it to Waynesboro. Up down met No Rush, who we know No Rush is the official last Sobo hiker, although there are other hikers that are trail south or trail north of him that Sobo hikers. So he's the official last, but he may not actually be the last one to get there. And the reason I say official is because the ATC put last on his tag, but there are still other Sobo hikers from 22 that are going to finish after he does. You know, they probably got off trail or had to get off trail for whatever reason, injuries or what have you. But anyway, I reported last week he was in Fontana, and that was kind of me forecasting where he was going to be, because I had got notice that he was in the Smokies like 2 weeks ago, and it looks like he took a week off and stayed in Gatlinburg. So that's where Up Down ran into him. Cobweb Rose, Snapshot, Mountain Crusher, and Lucky Bay have made it through the Rhone, and they confirmed the Over Mountain Shelter is still standing. I feel like I want to break into a Billy Joel song when I say that every single week. But they hope to be in Damascus in a few days. Boston, he has made it to Front Royal, and About Face, he has been at the Grayson Highlands base camp there, recovering from severe blisters and plantar fasciitis for several days. But he's back on trail now and has been past the quarter-way tree. And as somebody who suffers with plantar fasciitis, it can be very debilitating on trail. And just briefly, the secret to it is stretching your glutes and your calves and all of that, and pulling your toes up and stretching everything from your glutes all the way around your Achilles, all the way down your leg and up to your toes. And that's the only thing that has ever really helped me with it. So just keep that in mind, folks, when you're out there. So we had a few folks that got off trail. Ross 08, he got off trail. He made it as far as Massey Gap, and he has had several falls and finally fell hard enough to hit his head and had a concussion. So he is done, and he is already back substitute teaching. And then Wings is off trail due to bilateral stress fractures and a possible meniscus tear. The meniscus tear was from a previous injury, but the bilateral stress fractures ain't. And he hopes to be back on after some healing and maybe turn it into a flip-flop. So some news we got out there. We already mentioned that the bridge over Craig Creek there, as of April 25th, I think I said the 24th, but April 25th is gone. It ain't there anymore. So they're going to be rebuilding it. Who knows when? I don't think they have a schedule for that. The walk around to get around it is on a road walk. There is some traffic on that road walk, so be careful. It is well marked from what I understand, but it is a road walk nonetheless. And so that is if the creek there, Craig Creek, it cannot be forded. And in a lot of cases, hikers coming through after really heavy rains, it cannot be forded. They are having to go around that and are not able so you miss out on what I consider a really nice section. After a climb up to the top of the hill, there's some flat hiking up there, and you go around you miss the Audie Murphy monument up there. And for me, that was a very spiritual experience. I stayed there, and it was just really neat to see all the military stuff that people had brought up there and paid tribute to Audie Murphy, who was the most decorated person in World War II. And so, most decorated soldier in World War II. And so it's just a really neat place to be up there. So, in any case, I hate people have to miss that they have to go around that. Of course, it is a legitimate detour, so it does still count for your ATC 2,000 miler certification. If that's something you're interested in being recognized by the ATC, then they will still recognize you. The U.S. Forest Service in the southern region, which includes all of Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia, they have issued now requirements that all food and any smelly objects, including smelly trash, all that has to be either contained in a plastic, or I guess you could use a cast iron bear vault. We talked about that in a previous video. But in a bear vault, or it has to be hung up in a tree, in a food bag, and that also includes earth sacks. So earth sacks are, one of the things that they say is you don't have to hang it because bears can't break into it. Well, that is not true. I've seen plenty of places where bears ripped into bags. I've had reports this year of bears ripping into earth sack bags. And so, people like to just tie them around a tree, around the base of a tree, or just up in a fork, head high. That's not good enough now, according to the U.S. Forest Service. You can't do that. And so any food refuse or any of that scented items has to be hung in a tree or in a bear vault. Or you can put them in a hard-sided camper. You can't put them in a tent. You can't put them in a shelter. You can't put them in a pop-up. It has to be a hard-sided RV or in a hard-sided house. So you can put them in your house. They'll allow you to do that with all the windows shut and all the doors closed. But you have to hang it if you're out there on trail. Even an earth sack, you have to hang that. So just keep that in mind for folks out there that want to store them inside, in their tent, or maybe keep them in the shelter with them. That is not allowed right now. Of course, if there's cables there, you can hang them on the bear cables, or if there's a bear box, you can put them in the bear box there. But the violation of this prohibition, it is punishable by a fine of not more than $5,000. So there goes your budget for your through hike for an individual, or $10,000 for an organization, or imprisonment for not more than 6 months, or both. So you could, if you don't hang your earth sack up there or whatever bag you got, you go to jail for 6 months and pay $5,000. So I don't think they would do that, but in any case, the judge could do that if he wanted to. So just keep that in mind. The fines and everything, I guess they're so heavy because the problem is to do with bears, of course, bears getting in people's food sacks, and then bears associating that place wherever they got into it with easy pickings, easy food. Now the bears attacking people or actually ripping off packs, or taking food away from people, coming up close to them. All those things making the bear not afraid of people. And so, bears they try to relocate them, but bears will come back to the area, even if they've had bears they've relocated 200 miles away, and a couple months later they're right back where they were doing the same thing. So usually if a bear attacks a person, even if the bear wasn't really attacking the person but attacking them to get their food, that bear is euthanized, so he's shot. So a dead bear, a habituated bear, is a dead bear. So let's do our part. I know it's a pain in the butt. I don't like hanging mine either. And there are places where, that branch is way, way up there, even if there is a branch to be able to get to. So, and the branch should be 70 paces minimum away from camp, which is like 100, 200 feet, something like that. So just keep that in mind where you're out there. That is possible that you could be fined if you don't do that. The whites, they are getting snow. So the last few days, they started getting snow again before, and I know nobody's up in the whites right now. There might be some flip-floppers up there, but probably not. But the rapid melt that they had begin this month, it got reversed. And so there's plenty of snow above tree line. and the snow line kind of ends at about 3,000 feet. So here's Whispers. Whispers is our northern correspondent. He typically gives us stuff on the whites. In this case, he was hiking around the Connecticut, Massachusetts um, border there, and so he sends in a quick video. So Whispers, take it away.
Appalachian Trail conditions update for Friday, April 28th, for a change from where the trail crosses between Mass and Connecticut. Unlike the whites, the snow is gone, and the bugs are out, but not bad yet. Yeah.
Appreciate that, Whispers. Appreciate you sending that video in for us there. Like I said, I don't typically report on section hikers, but Tent Stakes also said that while he was in the Smokies, he saw a total of 6 bears, 4 cubs and 2 mamas, in some lush green areas. So, and he said they did not seem afraid of him. So lots of bear activity that are going on the trail right now, particularly down south. So at Beach Gap, which is Nobo Mile 90.3, bear ripped open 1 earth sack, ate the food inside, and punctured a 2nd earth sack. And then at Betty Creek Gap, Nobo Mile 97.2, the bear defeated 2 PCT style bear hangs and stole food bags. So really, the only way they're going to defeat that is if you put it on a really skinny tree, he climbs up the tree and bends it over, or you don't have it far enough away, or the limbs are far enough away from the trunk, or the limbs are really skinny that you put it on and he bends it over. I've seen bears do that, that they would climb out on a skinny limb and their weight would just pull it down and then they would fall down. So you really need a decent limb to do that. In Tennessee, they had a food conditioned bear at Abington Gap Shelter, which is mile 460, and that bear was persistent in returning to the shelter. And even though the hikers tried to scare him off, the bear chewed on an earth sack and moved 2 bear canisters. They never found the bear canisters, so they don't know if he broke into the canisters or not. I have seen bear canisters that were broken into by bears before, so they're not 100% defeatable, but they are a lot more difficult. And then we talked about the one hiker that passed away up there in Maryland at the Ensign Cowan shelter. And there was another hiker, and I don't know if it's a through hiker or not, but they were rescued by chopper at the Maryland Heights, which is a trail north of Harper's Ferry. So that's the rock overlook where you look back down over the river and you look back down into Harper's Ferry. This one fell off the slick rocks up there at the Maryland Heights and fell on the rocks and was injured enough where they couldn't get out, and so they had to send a chopper in there to get them out. Don't forget, Trail Days is May 19th through the 21st. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. Me and Come Along will be there, so looking forward to it. We'll be there in the family section around the ball field, so come on out, say hey to Come Along and I'd love to sit around and talk trail with you. Folks, that's all I got this week. As always, appreciate you, and we'll see you out here.